The alarm tore through the embassy station before I even opened my eyes. Red light, sharp horn, the floor shaking under my boots as I rolled out of bed and hit the cold metal. I am Elias Cho, Junior Liaison Officer for the Sol Compact, and in that moment, I had no idea that the next 10 minutes would decide whether two species went to war, or whether I would finally understand the woman I had been falling for without admitting it to myself. The voice on the intercom was clipped and fast. Breach detected on docking ring 4. All personnel to stations. This is not a drill. I grabbed my jacket and ran. The corridor lights flickered between red and white, throwing strange shadows on the curved walls. Somewhere below me, metal groaned like it was in pain. I turned a corner and almost collided with her. Shalira stood there, tall and steady, her copper skin catching the emergency light. Her dark eyes calm, even as the whole station trembled around us. "Someone cut the outer hatch," she said. Her voice did not shake. "Not an accident. A blade mark. Someone wanted in." "Who would want to break into a diplomatic station?" I asked, my heart hammering. "Someone who does not want peace between our people," she said. "Someone who benefits from war." We ran together toward the control deck, boots slapping against the deck plates, alarms screaming overhead. I had spent 4 months in daily meetings with this woman, arguing over trade terms and translation errors, but I had never seen her move like this, fast and sure, like she had trained for exactly this kind of morning. When we reached the control deck, chaos greeted us. Screens flashed warnings. A young officer named Daniel was shouting into a comm unit, sweat on his forehead. An older woman named Grace, our station's chief engineer, was pulling up a schematic of the docking ring, her fingers trembling slightly. "We have a breach in Section 4, Grace said. "Someone is inside the station. Life support in that section just spiked. Someone is venting oxygen on purpose." My stomach dropped. "That section holds the negotiation archive," I said. "Every trade agreement. Every treaty draft we have built for the last 4 months. If those records burn," Shalira said quietly, "both our governments will believe the other side destroyed them to gain an advantage. It will not matter what actually happened. It will only matter what people believe happened." Daniel turned from his console, his face pale. "There is more," he said. "The intruder is broadcasting a distress signal using our embassy frequency. It is designed to sound like an attack. If any patrol ship out there hears it, they will assume the Vaynari attacked a human station." The room went cold and silent for a moment, despite the blaring alarms. I looked at Shalira. "We have maybe 6 minutes before a patrol ship intercepts that signal," I said. 6 minutes before every gain we made in 4 months turns to ash. "Then we do not have time to be afraid," she said. "We have time to act." She turned to Grace. "Can you cut power to that broadcast without cutting life support to the rest of the station?" she asked. Grace shook her head. "Not from here," she said. "The override switch is physically located in Section 4. Someone has to go there and pull it by hand." "Section 4 is venting oxygen," Daniel said. "Anyone who goes in without a suit will not last 2 minutes." "I am already moving toward the suit locker," I said. "Get me a suit." Shalira grabbed my arm. "You are not trained for zero pressure work," she said. "I am." I looked at her, at the calm fire in her eyes, and I understood something important in that instant. She was not simply a translator or an attaché. She had trained for danger long before she ever sat across a negotiation table from me. "We go together," I said. "You know the switch. I know the archive room layout. We move faster as a team." She studied me for 1 long second, then nodded once. Grace threw us 2 pressure suits from the emergency locker. My hands shook as I sealed the collar ring, but Shalira's hands were steady, and she reached over and finished the clasp I had fumbled. "Breathe slow," she said through the comm. "Fear burns oxygen faster than fire does." We stepped through the airlock together. The corridor beyond was a nightmare of drifting papers, broken light fixtures, and a low groaning hum that vibrated through my bones. Frost had already formed along the metal walls where the air had thinned enough to freeze moisture. My suit display showed the pressure outside dropping every second. "There," Shalira said, pointing toward a red panel near the far wall. "The override switch. It requires 2 hands to unlock, one to hold the safety catch, and one to pull the lever." We ran across the frost-covered floor, our boots slipping slightly on the icy metal. That is when the man appeared from a side corridor holding a cutting tool in one gloved hand. His name tag read, Peter, an engineer I recognized from cargo operations, someone I had shared coffee with only 3 days earlier. His eyes looked wild behind his visor, desperate rather than angry. "Stay back," he shouted, his voice crackling through the open comm channel. "This station should never have been built. My brother died when the first contact ship arrived at our outer colony. I will not watch our people bow to them." Shalira did not attack him. She did not raise her voice. "I am sorry about your brother," she said. "Grief like that does not disappear because a treaty is signed. But destroying this archive will not bring him back. It will only send other brothers and sisters to die in a war that never needed to happen." Peter's hand trembled on the cutting tool. "You would not understand," he said. "Your people started this." "No one started this," I said, stepping slightly in front of Shalira without thinking. "Fear started this. Fear always starts these things, but right now, in this room, you have a choice that has nothing to do with your brother. You have a choice about what happens to everyone still alive." The oxygen alarm on my wrist display blinked faster, the numbers dropping toward a level my suit rated as critical exposure risk if the seal failed for even a moment. Peter looked at the cutting tool in his hand, then at the switch panel behind us, then at our faces through our visors. "If I stop now," he said, his voice cracking, "they will call me a traitor either way." "They will call you the man who stopped a war," Shalira said. "History remembers the choice made in the final second more than every second before it." For a long moment nobody moved. The frost kept spreading. The hum kept building toward something dangerous. Then Peter dropped the cutting tool. It clattered against the frozen floor and skidded toward the wall. "I do not know how to undo what I already started," he said. "The broadcast is already looping. The vents are already open on a timer." "Show me," Shalira said. He led us to a small control node hidden behind an access panel. Wires spilled out of it like colorful veins. Shalira knelt beside it, her fingers moving fast and precise, tracing circuits I could never have understood. "Elias, pull the override lever now," she said without looking up. "That stops the venting. I will handle the broadcast loop." I grabbed the lever with both hands, released the safety catch exactly the way she had shown me, and pulled with everything I had. The lever gave way with a heavy clunk, and somewhere deep in the walls, a valve slammed shut. The hum around us shifted pitch, then slowly faded. "Pressure stabilizing," Grace's voice said through the comm, relief flooding her tone. "Section 4 sealing. Oxygen levels rising." Shalira pulled 2 wires apart with a sharp motion, and the distress signal on the embassy frequency cut to static, then silence. "Broadcast terminated," Daniel's voice said. "No patrol ship acknowledged the signal. We are clear." I sat back on my heels, my suit fogging slightly from my own breath, my heart still slamming against my ribs. "We did it," I said, almost laughing from relief. "We actually did it." Peter stood a few steps away, his shoulders slumped, staring at his own gloved hands like he did not recognize them. "What happens to me now?" he asked quietly. "That is not my decision to make," I said, "but I will tell them the truth. That you stopped when it mattered most. That has to count for something." Security arrived a few minutes later to take him into custody. He did not resist. He walked with his head down, saying nothing else, and I felt a strange mixture of anger and sorrow watching him go. Grief could turn gentle people into strangers to themselves, and there was no easy lesson in that, only a quiet ache. Shalira and I walked back to the control deck slowly, our suits still hissing faintly as they equalized to station pressure. Neither of us spoke for a while. When we finally removed our helmets, my hair was damp with sweat, and my hands would not stop shaking, though the danger had passed. "You did well out there," Shalira said, studying me with an expression I could not quite name. "Most humans freeze the first time real danger arrives. You did not freeze." "I had a good partner," I said, trying to sound calm despite my racing pulse. "You made it look easy." "It was not easy," she said. "My hands were shaking the entire time as well. I simply did not let you see it." That admission surprised me more than anything that had happened in the last hour. "Why hide it?" I asked. "Because you needed someone steady beside you in that moment," she said. "And I decided I could be steady for both of us, if it meant we survived together. We stood there in the quiet corridor, alarms finally silent, the station slowly returning to its normal hum of machinery and distant voices. I looked at her, at the frost still melting from her suit collar, at the calm return of her expression, and something loosened in my chest that I had been holding tight for months. "You know," I said, my voice lighter now that the fear had drained away, leaving something else behind. "One of these days I am just going to tell everyone the truth, that you love me." I meant it as a tired joke, a release of the tension we had both been carrying, nothing more. Shalira went very still, the same way she had gone still in every serious negotiation I had ever watched her handle. Then she smiled, not the practiced smile she used during official meetings, but a real one, warm and slightly amused, the kind that reached all the way into her eyes. "How did you know?" she asked. I laughed, waiting for her to correct herself, waiting for the usual graceful save she always managed during translation mistakes. It never came. "Wait," I said, "you are serious." "My people do not joke about deep attachment," she said. "It would be like your people joking about breathing, amusing to imagine, but never something anyone actually means as a joke." "So when I said that," I began, "you were testing something you believed to be untrue, hoping for a reaction," she said. "Humans call this testing the water, yes. I have been waiting for you to test it since the day you carried me out of that damaged shuttle bay 3 months ago." I stared at her, replaying that memory. A minor accident during a supply transfer, nothing dramatic, just me pulling her clear of a falling crate and refusing to let anyone make a formal report about it because I did not want her blamed for something that was not her fault. "You remember that?" I said quietly. "I remember everything you have done since the day we met," she said. "You gave me your portion of proper tea because our embassy stock does not agree with my body. You said nothing about it to anyone. You asked for nothing in return. On my homeworld, that is not simple courtesy. That is the beginning of something serious." I felt my face grow warm, despite the freezing air still clinging to my suit. "I thought I was just being kind," I said. "You were being both kind and, in your own clumsy human way, deeply intentional," she said. "Your species is efficient like that, even when you do not realize it yourselves." I sat there in the quiet hallway, still catching my breath from nearly losing everything, only minutes earlier, now facing something entirely different, something that felt far bigger than any treaty or trade agreement we had negotiated together. "So this whole time," I said slowly, "I believed I was simply doing my job, and you believed I was courting you." "You were doing both at once," she said. "It is one of the things I admire most about you." Around us, the station kept humming back to life. Lights steadied from red to soft white. Voices returned to normal volume over the intercom. Somewhere far below, engineers were already repairing the breach that had almost destroyed everything we had built together. Shalira reached out and placed her palm flat against mine, fingers spread wide, the true greeting gesture of her people that I had been performing slightly wrong for months without ever knowing it. This time, I did not simply mimic the gesture. I turned my hand and laced my fingers through hers instead, blending both our customs into one simple motion. She allowed it without hesitation, her eyes bright despite everything we had just survived. "We nearly lost everything today," I said. "The archive, the treaty, maybe even our own lives. And yet somehow," she said, "we are both still standing here, and something important between us finally has a name." I looked past her toward the wide observation window at the end of the corridor, where the pale curve of a distant moon hung silent and unaware of everything that had almost gone wrong only minutes earlier. Danger had a strange way of clearing away every excuse and every hesitation a person carried. Somewhere between the fear of losing the treaty and the fear of losing her, I had finally said something true, disguised as a joke, exactly the way people often do when the truth feels too large to say plainly. "I do not regret any part of today," I said, "not even the parts that terrified me." "Neither do I," she said. "Fear reminded me how much I did not want to lose you before you understood what I already knew." We stood together in that corridor a while longer, letting the station settle fully back into calm, letting our own hearts settle along with it. Later that day, official reports would describe a security breach successfully contained through quick action by embassy staff. They would mention names, procedures, and technical details. They would not mention the quiet conversation that happened afterward in an empty corridor, nor the moment a tired joke turned into the truth neither of us had been brave enough to say first. But I would remember it, every second of it. The fear, the frost, the choice a grieving man finally made to stop, and the woman beside me, who had been patient enough to wait months for me to notice what she had already known from the very beginning. Sometimes the biggest discoveries do not arrive through telescopes or treaties or careful diplomacy. Sometimes they arrive in a single sentence, spoken half as a joke, in the quiet after danger has finally passed, when two people realize they have been circling the same truth all along.